Good morning, good morning, good morning. And we've got the first really nice sort of sunny week of the spring here. And it's only the end of February. So, I've always said global warming, nothing but good for the UK. Thank you so much. Although they have to stop there technically. So, I've got my usual thought for the day. And as usual, it's mixed. It's a commentary on what's going on at the moment, and also with the dental angle, because as we know, everything has a dental angle, and it's all about the monarchy. Now, the monarchy is in the news at the moment because they're in the last day or two, they've just started the process of removing former Prince Andrew from the line of succession. He was 8th. He's now going to be reduced to a number probably slightly below me, which is quite amusing. Yeah. And that's because I'm no fan of the monarchy. I never have been and never will be. I was in an odd position insofar as I knew that I didn't like the monarchy, but I didn't really know why. I couldn't elucidate. I couldn't put it into words what it was that I just instinctively. Let me just get past this lot of traffic, because this is the road that this time of the year the sun shines straight down it, and it's on a wet day when you've got a lot of glare off the road. It's a bit of a nightmare. But no, I didn't like the monarchy, and I mean, just on the basis of unfairness, that sort of sense of unfairness that we're all born with. You don't have to tell a child what's fair and what's not fair. They're just born with it. They'll very quickly tell you, in no uncertain terms, if someone's getting more food than they are, or someone's getting more toys than they are, or they're having to sit at the back while everyone else gets to sit in the front. They know what fair is and what unfair is. And it just seemed to me that the monarchy was unfair. That's what some family would be. And that's because I didn't subscribe to this idea like they used to in Japan and China, where the monarch is the emperor is a god. I think as life went on and my views on it developed, I saw more and more of the bad side of monarchy. Not necessarily the dark side, but the pernicious side. The sort of the side that Cromwell didn't like. Their influence spreading far and wide. Realizing that in Kent we had, for example, a Lord Lieutenant, and most counties had a Lord Lieutenant, and just realizing how many people owe their position, their job, and their income to the monarchy indirectly through pretty direct line, but through that line, the patronage that flows from the monarch, to the point where Jacob Rees-Moggs going on the YouTube yesterday and saying that Parliament must remember that it's subservient to the monarch, that the ministers of the government are the King's ministers. And then, of course, the King's got a Privy Council. But where I saw it most obviously in dentistry was in the awards of honours. And in my time on the British Dental Association and on their General Dental Services Subcommittee, which was the subcommittee representing general dental practitioners at the time, high street dentists, I was really aware of there was a massive great cadre, probably more than half, I would say, of the so-called elected members to that body, who were doing it in the hope that they would one day get some sort of honour. And the honour that everybody wanted was an OBE, Order of the British Empire, generally regarded as the highest honour that probably the ordinary man and woman can hope for. The civil service have their own honours list, which means that they manage to get obviously more honours per employee than any other industry or service. And the army has their own honours list, in addition to the sort of the medals for gallantry and stuff like that. But if you were on the GDSC in the 80s, you wanted an OBE. And the only way you could get an OBE was to become chairman of the committee. And the only way to become chairman of the committee was just to be so obsequious, kiss so many wrinkly buttholes, and for many people, this was a full-time occupation, trying to maneuver their way to be chairman of the General Dental Services Committee. Now, I was never going to be chairman of the General Dental Services Committee, so it really didn't bother me much. But although it's like it's like Desert Island Discs, which is a program in the UK where every week they have some, well, it used to be A-list celebrities. I think it's B and C-list celebrities, because when I was looking at it this week, I had not even got the slightest clue who they'd invited to nominate their 10 records or whatever, and one luxury and one book, to go away on this hypothetical island. And I honestly, again, like 20 years ago, I had a when I was more involved in politics there, and I thought, well, there's a non-negligible chance that the BBC will ring me up and say, Derek Watson, you've done 30 years selfless representation of dentists and fought a rearguard attempt to try and preserve the National Health Service. Would you like to go on Desert Island Discs? And I would say, well, I've got to put a few finishing touches to my list, but yeah, that'd be great. And now I'm getting to the stage with Desert Island Disc where they got people on it, and I'm like, who the fuck are they? How could they get to this person before they got to me? Some mistake, surely, as they were saying in the private eye. So, who cares? Who cares what their choices are? Because unless you know them, and I suppose perhaps perhaps the young generation does know them. So, but certainly it's not. It doesn't seem to me that Desert Island Discs is a meritocracy. It seems to me it's some form of reward. It's some form of recognition by the blob, by the establishment, that that you're yourself and not non-self. That's a very nice car. Let me pull out. So, and you used to see this a lot at the General Dental Council. I think I've mentioned this before, where they would invite people to these lectures, and when the person had a funny name, they knew whether you were sort of one of them or not by how you pronounce the name when you turned up. If the bloke names was Menzies Campbell, and you said, I'm come for the Menzies Campbell lecture, they would they would say, oh, well, he obviously he's not one of us. But if you said, I've come for the Minnis Campbell lecture, which is how they all pronounce it, then they would say, oh, Minnis, that Menzies is Minnis, so you're one of us, so please come in, take a seat at the front. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of snobbery, and it's only, I suppose, in many ways, it's evolutionary, and it's the human beings have always been tribal, and they always will be tribal. And the GDC and the top establishment of the BDA are one tribe, and they've been a very successful tribe. That tribe and the Department of Health tribe have managed to exclude the public and any reasonable level of dentistry from from the system to the exclusion of the general dental practitioners and the dentistry. The BDA and the GDC have done rather well. But everybody wanted an OBE. Nobody wanted an MBE or a CBE or whatever. They wanted an OBE. And the government was happy to hand them out. All the time that the British Dental Association and the General Dental Services Committee was subservient and acquiesced in the government policy, they were allowed a little bit of a squeak, but not, a bit of a, like it was a bit like when the BDA went to the Department of Health, it was like, okay, it's 10 o'clock, let's get the formal protest over and done with, and then we can all go out and have a nice lunch. So, now that all went wrong when the dentists went on strike. And the reason why the dentists went on strike was in the 90s was because they'd been particularly productive. And as due to the system that was in operation at the time, they then had a particularly large pay cut because the government kept the service within budget by cutting the fees when productivity went up. And technically, I suppose, could have raised the fees if productivity went down, although I don't think they ever would have done that. They certainly never needed to or never did. But what happened was, after the fee cut, there was a big hoo-ha within the profession. And the General Dental Practitioners Association, of which I was the chairman and Neville Bainbridge was the president, called a strike vote on whether we should, we called a vote on whether we should reduce our dependence on the NHS. The BDA really made a mistake and actually called a proper strike vote. And because most of the time, your membership will back you up. If you call a ballot on industrial action, then both of those votes were passed by the necessary majority. It was all done properly through the what's it called? The not the race relations people, the people who do the ballots, Electoral Reform Society. And then, as a result, the BDA went on strike, and the General Dental Practitioner Association issued advice to its members to reduce their reliance on the National Health Service. Now, that was our advice anyway. So really, our ballot was more just a demonstration of our resolve. I think the BDA got themselves into a bit of a spot because they actually called for a strike. And then, dentists were never going to stay on strike for long. And in fact, there were several areas of the country that didn't go on strike, and other areas of the country where, and this was because they were, most dentists were largely reliant on National Health Service treatment. And so there was areas where they said they were on strike, some where they didn't take on new NHS patients or whatever. But the whole thing was called off pretty quickly. But it upset the government. And so the government really felt that this was gone beyond, like a petition. They felt that the British Dental Association had overstepped the mark in terms of protest because it was a big thing. It was a national strike. It was in all the papers, and it harmed the government. I think the John Major's government, was in at the time. I can't remember exactly. I know we were negotiating with Brian Mulwiney, who was the Secretary of State for Health. Or was it Virginia Bottomley? I can't remember. Anyway, that's not the point. The point was that the chairman of the General Dental Services Committee was a chap called Keith Osterloh, who was like a very amiable, genial bloke, and that's how he got to that position, was told that his OBE was not going to be forthcoming. and they ended the practice of giving OBEs to past chairman of the General Dental Services Committee, Keith Osterloh being the first casualty, because of the fact that the government felt that not that he'd led the dentist on strike, the GDPA had led the dentist into the strike, the BDA had to follow along due to pressure from their members, but they felt that Keith Osterloh had not done enough to knock this ridiculous strike idea on the head. And so as a result, he missed out on his OBE. And that's conjecture. Obviously, I don't know this, but was the opinion that was widely held at the time. And it was certainly out character for chairman of the GDSC not to get an OBE. And in fact, to my best of my knowledge, no one has got one since. They just decided that the GDSC was not on side enough to have OBEs handed out like Smarties to the past chairman. Now, OBEs do continue to be handed out to the dental profession. And when I say the dental profession, I mean once a year or twice a year, I do scan the list of people who've been awarded OBEs, and it's quite easy. If you get the whole list is on, in one page on a web page, you just do a Control F search for DENT, D-E-N-T. Actually, what you want to search for is dentist dental. Dentist dental. I think there was 3. Anyway, dentist or dental would get it because it's service to dentistry. Oh, it's dentist, dentistry, or dental. That's it. But obviously, dentists, you pick up dentistry as well. So, and what you do is you get these. What can I put it? Part of the middle management of dentistry now, the inspectorate, the inspection and testing, and also a lot of academia. But basically, they're all people that have done government jobs. So, for example, there was a bunch of dental schools. When I applied, I think there were 12 or 13 or something. And then there was this idea to deregulate dental training, make it easier for dentists to train. And the stupid idea that if you set up a dental school in a deprived area, then the dentists who train there would all stay and work in the deprived area because they knew it. They like the restaurant, they like the nightlife, and they like the deprivation, and the lack of money. So they set up, and the West Country, I think, was a deprived area by that definition. So they set up a dental school in the West Country, and then also to cut down on the cost, because to take someone from A levels to a fully qualified dentist was not only was it 5 years and 1 term of training, and very expensive training as well. I mean, practical training that involved consuming materials and paying dental nursing staff and stuff like that. But also then by that point, they needed a year postgraduate training because the academics managed to talk the Department of Health into, well, I say talk, they practically formed it, but they managed to talk the Department of Health into believing that even after 5 years and 1 term of training, the dentists still weren't good enough to go out and work unsupervised. And so it became 6 years and 1 term in effect. I mean, we're bearing in mind that my daughter's a pilot, and she trained up to the point where she could be co-pilot on a 737 within a year. I mean, that didn't cost anything like 1 year of dental training, and that included doing circuits in a 737. So, I mean, dental training is a subject all on its own. But my point was that the patronage, the patronage that spreads far and wide corrupts everything it touches, and it pretty much touches everything. And so I don't quite understand how they can take Andrew out of the line, because it's a bloodline and he's got the blood. So I don't understand how you can do it. I'm glad in a way that they're doing it, because I think it proves that this whole business of who can be king is not completely to do with the blood. Yeah. I mean, people used to think it is, and they perhaps think it should be or whatever, but these are the people who, would have worshipped Emperor Hirohito and Chairman Mao. And at the moment are worshipping Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And these people are idiots. They are literally the definition of useful idiots. Well, I say that, but I mean, obviously they do get something back. As I say, they get the prestige, they get the job, they get the money, they get to dress up in stupid uniforms with badges all over and scrambled egg on their hats and stuff like that. And that, you know, and they get a sense of belonging. They get a sense of superiority, perhaps that they're better than the rest of us. But if I was to wind my window down, you would be able to hear the royal family laughing. They are laughing at us. They can't believe. I mean, I honestly think they all go home every evening and say, "You'll never guess what the public have decided now. They've suggested us for this honour, or they've said that they'll stand out in the cold for this, or it's so and so's official birthday, and we're going to church, and we should expect an honour guard from the local peasants." You know, can you believe it? Can you believe these people treat us like this? I can't believe it. I'm speaking as a member of the royal family now. I think, you know, they've got no right to believe it, and they've got no right to receive it. And they are laughing and loud and long, and have been for centuries, at the people of this country who treat them with such deference. And it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they do. They can get divorced. They can take jobs. They can be corrupt. They can waste public money. They can leak government secrets. They can run the world secretly through their list of, you know, I mean, the one thing the Epstein files has done is it has produced a list of people who all visited little James Island and knew each other and sort of pretty much had each other on speed dial. And the most surprising thing for me out on that list is that these people are all, they're like the Desert Island Discs lot. I don't know any of them. And I think that's the idea. The idea is I am not supposed to know any of them. They are all people, they're all very important chief executive officers, chief marketing officers, etc. All the movers and shakers, the masters of the universe. And I don't know any of them. But the only good thing that's come out of it is they've all had to resign because their network was exposed, you know, in the same as the Panama Files and the Swiss release of the secret bank accounts and stuff like that. It's all been exposed. So it's good, but don't tell me that it's not going on, you know, in another way in Davos or you know, wherever. So that's why I think that's my argument for the for ending the monarchy. And before you say, I know you're going to say, well, you're going to replace the monarchy. What are you going to do? Replace it with President Farage? No, you don't have to do that. Just look in France. France had a little argument with their monarchy, and their monarchy went away. And yet France is not dysfunctional as a country. And in terms of tourist income, Versailles beats Buckingham Palace hands down in terms of how much revenue it generates for the country. So, yeah, so don't tell me that it can't be done. It's just the people that prop them up. Same as in North Korea. If everybody in North Korea just turned on Kim Jong-un, he wouldn't last 2 minutes. It would be like Ceausescu in Romania. The population will have had enough. They'll just turn on him. And it's the same in this country, except that at the moment they are just propped up by a bunch of a lot of useful idiots, all clamouring for an honour. And on a quiet day, if you listen very hard and point your face towards London or Sandringham or wherever they are, you'll hear the laughter. All right, that's my bit for the day. I shall talk to you soon. Bye.